Hi YouTube, I'm Volta, the most electrifying woman in the VTubing sphere. And today we're going to be reacting to Why Won't Pokemon Make a Bug Type Legendary by Wolfey. Make sure to like, subscribe, I'm already subscribed, I forgot, and leave a comment if you like this video. Now let's get into it.
You can't have a Pokemon game without a set of legendary Pokemon. Legendaries shape the lore of a region and the atmosphere of a generation as a whole. They come in every shape and size, often warping the very geography around them to a suitable throne upon which they can sit. Ever since Generation 2, the covers of the games themselves have featured legendary Pokemon, displayed like a prize at Chuck E. Cheese for you to earn.
Low-key, I feel like how good a legendary is, kind of like the design, not necessarily how good they are competitive or like strong in game, but the design of the Pokemon like matters a lot to actually how much the game sells. Like especially like which edition sells also, like more than the other. So yeah. Like legendaries are very important. We know this.
Chuck E. Cheese is. Despite their relative rarity, there are a whopping 71 legendary Pokemon sprinkled throughout the Pokemon universe. And among them, every single type is represented. Every single type except for one. Because, for whatever reason, there has never been a bug type.
Dude, I like bug types. Why do they treat my voice like that? I do like bug types. I like them a lot. It's not my favorite type, of course, but I do like bug types a lot, so I'm kind of sad that they get treated this way. Oh, shit. I moved forward. Anyways.
For one, because, for whatever reason, there has never been a bug type legendary Pokemon. You heard that right. In 30 years of Pokemon history, Game Freak has never made a legendary bug-type Pokemon. That's a pretty bad break for the creatures that inspired the series in the first place. Remember, Satoshi Tajiri modeled Pokemon on his own experience of catching and trading bugs as a kid. But I think I know the reason, or to be honest, reasons, why. See, bug types...
How many? How many reasons why? Why didn't you say the amount of reasons, Wolfie? Which is the number.
Hello? Hello? What is that? Anyway, like I was saying, bug type...
Oh yeah, Genesect.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Genesect. I forgot about Genesect, but yeah, he's a mythical. He's not a legendary.
I'm gonna get it. I'm really gonna get it. Yep, that's not a legendary bug type Pokemon. I figured better... I figured better to get this out of the way. First, I know about Genesect, okay? You can delete that angry YouTube comment that you were writing. Genesect is the only bug-type mythical Pokemon, but you may be surprised to learn that Pokemon is actually really specific with its definitions, and mythical Pokemon and legendary Pokemon are actually two separate classes. But don't you worry your little head, we're gonna get to Genesect, okay? And we're also gonna talk about all the other Genesect legendary but not actually legendary bug
has its own movie, so it kinda almost counts, but not really.
Types that do exist. But first we're going to talk about what defines the bug type, what defines legendary Pokemon.
To be fair, the Genesect movie is honestly more about Mewtwo than Genesect, but like... Fuck. Damn it, man.
Why those qualities are like oil and water. And then to wrap things up, we'll talk about what my hypothetical legendary bug Pokemon would like. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I've already waxed poetic on legendaries for a bit, but they don't really need an introduction. If there's one thing that defines legendaries, it's their power level. Legendaries are the strongest non-Incineroar Pokemon of all time. Even the weakest legendaries stand leagues above the horde of common Pokemon below. And when you look at that horde of Pokemon, a lot of them are bug types. I'm going to New York, baby! Why? Well, it's a big year. I turn 30, Pokemon's turning 30, Pikachu, you and me, we're getting old, buddy. But what's a birthday without a party? I'll be celebrating with this video's sponsor, eBay, on Saturday, February 28th. There will be Pokemon programming all weekend long, including a special show on the 28th where I will personally be making an appearance. Come enjoy the party with us and check out eBay's special live on tour stop, featuring iconic cards,
even though it already happened
from 1996 to now, starting at OG retail prices. I'm personally hoping to get my hands on some of the Hold on Phantom cards to complete my collection, or maybe a PSA 10 Burmy in celebration of Bug Month. We'll be
yes.
live all day on Trainer Court's eBay Live channel with a
PSA
game show,
confirmed.
charity auctions, and even the chance to get some classic Pokemon items at MSRP. I'll be part of the
The
auction, and I
strongest
think I'm giving
Pokemon.
away some signed stuff for charity, so that'll be cool. So if you've been asking yourself where in the world is Wolfey, it's gonna be New York, baby. I've made it big. I'm going to the Big Apple, the big
Let's
bug
go.
apple, the bug 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 apple, the bug. Thanks again to eBay for sponsoring this video, and make sure you check out the live stream on Saturday, February 28th. If legendaries are defined by their power, bug types are defined by their lack of power.
Yeah.
I know that sounds rude, but I don't mean it as an insult.
Yeah,
I'm talking
they're
actually as much as I
designed.
can around.
They're designed to be that way. I mean, the whole point of bug types is like they're, you know, the little guys, the common guys, the first guys you meet, you know, the little, you know, the ones that are within reason, kind of realistic. You know, it's just a bee. You know, it's a big bee, but at the end of the day, it's just a bee. A wasp. A slug. You know, it's just, okay, they're kind of realistic to a degree compared to, you know, most other Pokemon. The only other type that's kind of realistic at the same level of bug is maybe normal, but even then, not fully though.
Facts. See, bug types have the lowest average base stat total of any type in the game, and it isn't particularly close. Here's a list of all the types sorted
Okay,
by
actually, I am interested in this. So Dragon is first, makes a lot of sense. Dragon has almost all. I'm trying to think, almost all pseudo legendaries are Dragon. The only exceptions are Metagross and Tyranitar, I think. Because we have, we have, let me check. Dragonite, Tyranitar, Metagross, Salamence, Garchomp, Hydreigon. Gen 6, which one is the pseudo Gen 6? Because it's not Dragold. I'm trying to think, who's the pseudo in Gen 6? I don't know, in Gen 7 you get, I also don't remember right now the Gen 7 one. And Gen 8 you get a freaking... Fuck, I can't remember his name. The Ghost type one. And Gen 8 you get... in Gen 9 you get Excalibur. Who are Gen 6 and 7 pseudos? Huh? What am I missing? Okay, Gen 7 is Como. Okay, yeah. And which is also a dragon. And Gen 6 is Gudra, who is also a dragon. So yeah. Out of 9 pseudo legendaries, 7 are dragons, so you know, makes sense. Fighting, steel. I'm surprised by fighting, honestly. That fighting is so high. I would expect steel because steel through design are usually later Pokemons. I'm also surprised fire is so high up, considering, you know, it's one of the starter types. I mean, compared, well, water makes a lot of sense that it's down, because, you know, it's very just big and there's so many water type Pokemon that it's bound to not be too high up. Yeah. Yeah, I think those are the only ones that kind of make me go like, what? Fighting being so high up, I mean, I would expect, like, I don't know, 4th or 5th maybe. I wouldn't have expected ground to be higher, ghost to be higher for sure. That's about it. Maybe normal to be higher, but not really. And fire also really surprises me.
Average base stat total. As you might expect, you've got your dragons at the top by a pretty big margin. And then you have some types that specialize in one stat, like fighting, steel, and psychic. As we go down the list, things steadily drop. Dragons were in the mid 500s, and even fighting and steel both cracked the 500 mark. The low 400s of normal and poison kind of makes them feel like fodder by comparison. And then there's bug, more than 25 points below the next highest type, the only type that averages a base stat total in the 300s. But the stats are not the main thing holding the bugs back. It's their very
Yep.
nature as bugs.
Bug type
is, in
is
my
not a
opinion,
good
pretty
type.
solidly the worst type in
Yeah.
the game. In fact, when I made my video ranking every single type, I didn't even have to hesitate before putting bug at the bottom.
Yep.
And not even dual typings can save bug. When I ranked every type combination, that took a lot of work, by the way. Not only was the absolute worst type a bug combination, 13 of the 17 bug type combinations were in the bottom half. And 4 of the 10 worst type combinations all involved bugs. Bug's type matchups are really just that bad. If we only look at weaknesses, things don't look terrible. Bug hits 3 types super effectively and is in turn weak to 3 types. That's certainly not awful. In terms of offensive matchups, Bug beats out 7 other types in terms of how many other types it can hit. Defensively, only Grass, Ice, and Rock have more weaknesses, but at the same time, 3 weaknesses is like pretty standard, with 8 other types sharing that same amount. All of this to say, if this was all that mattered, Bug would not look like an especially terrible type, and
It doesn't
certainly not the
resist
worst type
shit,
in the game.
and it can
However,
get a lot of shit
once we look at
for
resistances,
normal.
things get a bit more dire. Bug only has 3 resistances and absolutely 0 immunities, which makes it a pretty bad defensive type. Most other types with a low amount of resistances have some other benefit, like an immunity or a really low amount of weaknesses to compensate. The only types you could argue have as bad a defensive typing as Bug are Fighting, Ice, and like maybe Grass. But then we get to the offenses. With 7 different types resisting it, Bug is one of the worst attacking types in the game. Only Grass can compare, and that at least hits common types like Water and Ground for super effective. Bug's good matchups aren't nearly as common. So this is part of her answer. For the most part, Game Freak doesn't want their legendary Pokemon to feel bad to use. I know that not every legendary Pokemon is like good. While some get to be Urshifu, others have to be Monkey Dory. But I think that while there are some exceptions, Game Freak does want their legendary Pokemon to feel exciting and like strong to use, especially given that you almost always get them towards the end of your playthrough. Having a legendary Pokemon that's always doing not very effective damage then kind of gets in the way of that goal. When it comes to legendaries, I want to talk about things more concretely than just going off of vibes and trends. And one of the best ways to introduce some hard data is to take a look at the numbers, at the stats. Look, I'm sure you already know what I'm trying to prove here. Statistically, legendaries are strong. So let's get a little more use out of our spreadsheets. Let's pretend there's another type, the legendary type, and check out the average stats there. If we average all legendary Pokemon stats in their alternate forms, it comes out to 619.62, more than 230 points away from the Bug type average. You gotta face facts. Bugs are designed to be bad, and legendaries are designed to be good. That's something you definitely already instinctively knew. I'm not exactly blowing anyone's minds by saying legendaries are good, bug types are bad, right? It does explain a bit of why it might be hard to design a legendary bug. If legendaries are supposed to feel powerful, saddling them with a typing that might make you worse as a Pokemon just by virtue of its presence.
But you could give it even more stats. Let's go.
Goes against the primary goal of like being a good Pokemon. But I'm not satisfied by this answer. At least I don't think it's the whole answer. Because while yes, it's true that most bug types are bad and most legendaries are good, this isn't a hard and fast rule that Game Freak has to follow. It's descriptive, not prescriptive. And while it is true that bug is a bad type, it doesn't mean that every bug type is bad by definition. There have been a few bugs that have been competitively viable over the years, and one even won the Pokemon World Championships. I'm not counting Terrabug Iron Hands. So I want to go deeper. Taking another look at our spreadsheet, there's another thing revealed. Bug types are intentionally designed to be weak, and it's not just because they're eminently squishable in real life. If you've ever played a Pokemon game, chances are you've run into a bug catcher who tells you something about how bug types are easy to train. For those of us who have been playing forever, it's easy to overlook this statement. Now, a few months ago, I did a video about why Game Freak makes some Pokemon bad on purpose. And in this case, they've actually made an entire type bad for one all-important reason: to teach the player how to play Pokemon. Think way back to Generation 1, and a Viridian Forest teeming with bug types. For a good portion of trainers, bugs might be some of the very first Pokemon that they ever defeat in battle, or catch for themselves to use. It's actually a good thing to have certain types be asymmetrically balanced. It's what keeps dragons rare and makes the rare bugs with good stat lines all the more interesting to use. Bugs and legendaries serve completely opposite gameplay purposes in Pokemon. Bugs are the on-ramps to the game, and legendaries are the glorious reward waiting for you after you complete your journey. Again, this isn't groundbreaking. But there's one other thing that keeps bug and legendaries in opposition. So far, we've been talking about legendaries as the haves and bugs as the have-nots. But there's one core mechanic to Pokemon that is almost completely absent among the legendaries, and which the bugs have in great abundance. It's the true lesson that we learn from training our bugs, and the one thing that you almost never experience with legendary Pokemon. I'm talking about evolution.
Yeah.
Chances are, the first evolved Pokemon that you ever saw
they
was a
evolved
bug.
very fast.
Probably inside of a cocoon, or is it the cocoon? I think it's the cocoon itself. I'm also willing to bet that whatever unlucky bug catcher trained it gave you some spiel about how easy bugs are to evolve. And then maybe just a bit later, you were able to watch in awe for the first time as one of your Pokemon was bathed in a warm light and emerged completely different. Satoshi Tajiri didn't do wrong by his beloved bugs. They are the heralds of Pokemon's most beloved mechanic, the embodiment of change, the face of evolution. Then you look at legendaries. You can count the number of legendary Pokemon families with evolution on one tri-pronged pincer claw. You got Type Null and Somali, Nebby and its Agvolutions, and Kubfu plus its interesting, memorable evolution, Urshifu. 8 Pokemon in total, out of 105 total legendaries, 71 if we're not counting alternate forms. Meaning just about 10% of all the legendary species are part of an evolutionary line. Now let's sort Pokemon types by the percentage that are single stage, that don't evolve and weren't evolved into. Dragon clocks in at the top with just over 40% single stage Pokemon, followed by Electric, Psychic, and Flying, which makes a lot of sense. Dragon, Psychic, and Flying are some of the most common legendary types. And I'm guessing that Electric is up there because Game Freak is contractually obligated to drop a new Pikachu-shaped rat every 3 years, and most of these don't evolve. Is Pikachu the only one that evolves? No, we have Palmont now. We head down the list and things make sense. You've got most of the more magical types towards the top and the mundane at the bottom. And then, second to last, bug types, with just 12% single stage Pokemon. Out of exactly 100 bug types, there are only 12 that do not evolve. Just glancing at these numbers, you can tell just how core evolution is to the bug type identity. Pokemon like Pinsir and Heracross are notable specifically because they're bug types who don't evolve. By bucking the trend, they stand out. You could kind of say the same for Shuckle, and then all of the rest have some sort of other reason for being single stagers. Volbeat and Illumise come as a pair. Are they gonna make these two evolve at some point? Probably not. Durant is the same with Heatmore, and the remaining 4 are all special classes of Pokemon, but okay, not legendaries, okay? These are other types of Pokemon. I promise we'll get there, just give me a second. Also, just a side note, that poison type distribution is even wilder than it seems. Of the 9 single stage poison Pokemon, 7 of them are legendaries, mythicals, ultra beasts, or paradoxes. The only regular single stage poison Pokemon in existence are Jotonian, Quillfish, and Seviper. Seviper is the prototype for Durant with the Zangoose rivalry, and Quillfish actually has an ancient relative complete with evolution. So poison types really do not stand alone. I don't really know why they're so evolution prone. Maybe that's worth another video, but we're talking about bugs here, okay? Back to bugs.
Yay.
Hello. It's Bug Month. Bug Month! Bug Month is a joyous time of year. Bug Month! But it's also a very sad time of year. Bug Month? Because Bug Month is over halfway over. It's coming to a close. We're almost done with our month of bugs.
Oh, that was on purpose. I thought it was.
But don't you worry your pretty little head. You've still got time to get the Bug Month merch. Ooh, look at that. WolfeyStore.com has all your bug catching needs, okay? Look at this, look at this. By the way, did you know that we're having an actual bug catching contest? Like this is actually a thing going on. If you join the subscriber Discord, which you can do by becoming a member on Patreon, you still have until Bug Month ends to get the coolest bug that you can find and submit it for judging. I'm gonna look at a lot of bugs, okay? I'm the judge. Also, we have this shirt. Love this one a lot. I think this one's my favorite. But I forgot, we have stickers. Look at these cool stickers. We have Brat Summer, now we have Nat Winter. Hello? People are actually loving the stickers. That's something I wasn't fully anticipating before Bug Month. Bug Month! Anyway, this is a limited time merch drop. You only have until the end of Bug Month to get your Bug Month merch. So if you were thinking about getting something, time is running out. Don't squander the end of Bug Month. We still have some time left. There's still more time for Bug Month. Bug Month! Bug Month! Bug Month! What I hope that this shows you is that the bug type is defined by evolution.
That was something.
And the exceptions, when they exist, mostly have fun with that definition. Legendaries, on the other hand, follow a hidden rule of staying just the same. And similarly, when they bend that rule, it's typically for a good reason. I mean, Nebby's eventual evolution similarly, when they bend that rule, it's typically...
Main storyline, rival storyline makes VGC players mad. Fair enough.
For a good reason. I mean, Nebi's
That's
eventual
funny.
evolution into Solgaleo or Lunala
Yeah,
is set up as the major twist of Sun and Moon.
Yeah.
Although, to be honest, if you didn't see that one coming, I've got a nugget bridge to sell you. Type Null's evolution into Sofali is similarly played for story reasons. And Cubfu. I mean, I wish Cubfu never evolved. Could have just stayed a cute little beaver, but I guess that it is the driving story of the Isle of Armor DLC or whatever. So, for a bug type to be a legendary, it would have to break not 1, not 2, but 4 conflicting rules of the Pokemon universe. Let's review. Rule 1. Bug Pokemon
strong.
are, on the large, weak. There are obvious exceptions, and they're some of the most beloved Pokemon in the
What
franchise.
else?
Probably because of how rare they are, but this one isn't controversial. Sometimes even bug types that are trying to be strong end up as pretty bad. Like Frostmoth, actually, they were trying with Frostmoth, but they did give it the worst type combination in the series, and that means that it can't really make use of its incredible ability, signature ability at that. Rule 2. Legendaries have good stats. Again, hard to argue. Outside of the unevolved legends, the lowest base stat total on a legendary is 550, which is on Ogerpon herself, who I don't think anyone is saying is a weak legendary. I don't think anyone's like, oh, they should have made Ogerpon stronger. But even that lowest base stat total is higher than every single bug Pokemon that is in a Mega, and one of those special categories, or one very special bug, Volcaronia.
Volcarona is kind of a legendary,
Rule number 3.
but not really.
Bugs usually evolve. I've said enough about this, and it brings us right over to rule number 4. Legendaries usually don't evolve. That's a lot of rules to break. And that's probably why there haven't been any
you're breaking half only, depending on which way you go, because you either have a strong bug or a weak legendary. These two, you cannot break 3 and 4 at the same time, because you will either have them evolve or not. So
type legendaries. I'm not saying that Game Freak has a secret, like Fairly Odd Parents book of the rules that are totally unbreakable. It's just that when they're making a bug type, they're not thinking of things that legendaries do. And when they're making a legendary, you get the idea. Rules guide us even when we're not thinking about them. Which is why the bug type legendary that we do have breaks the rules. That's right, I lied. There is a bug type legendary Pokemon. You've been waiting for it this whole time, buzzing around in the background of this entire video. It's Bug Memory Silvally!
Shut the fuck up. That doesn't count.
Mad at me.
That doesn't count.
People are gonna be mad at me. Surely they're not gonna be mad at me. They're gonna be mad at me. Technically, this is the only bug type legendary. Arceus is a mythical, so you can delete that comment you were writing. You've already written it. Go down and delete it. You're embarrassed now. Go delete that comment. Anyway, chances are when you think about bug type legendary Pokemon, most of you are not thinking about Bug Memory Silvally, and the ones that are, we both need to go to the doctor, okay? The bug types you're probably thinking of are technically, by definition, not legendary Pokemon. But I will say that these bug legendary adjacent Pokemon often feel...
Give me a sec. My kitten is attacking me. Okay, let's keep going.
Well, maybe not legendary, but pretty dang close. Let's talk about how they exist and how they point us to what a real potential bug type legendary would look like. I think it might be more familiar than you think. Okay, Buzzwole and Pheromosa. Lots of you were thinking about Buzzwole and Pheromosa. There's already like 20 comments about Buzzwole and Pheromosa. Ultra Beasts are definitively not legendaries, but they are close. They're ultra powerful, ultra rare late game Pokemon. I think that it's no coincidence that Game Freak decided Ultra Beasts were the time to make some bug types with those qualities. Because Ultra Beasts, kind of by definition, are the rule breakers. Forget being a bug type legendary. They come from another dimension. They barely ever get caught in regular Pokeballs. Their stats are bonkers and also weird. Are they all prime numbers or did I make that up? I think they're all prime numbers. And I mean, the elephant in the room is that they're barely even Pokemon. There's actually a question as to whether or not they're canonically Pokemon. If there's one rule that they do follow, it's that they are weird. In design and lore, in pretty much every conceivable way. And that actually makes them the prototype of what a bug type legendary could look like. Look, Ultra Beasts are almost legendaries in all but name, but I do think that the distinction matters. I think that Game Freak intentionally weaponized the disconnect between bug types and legendaries here to add to the overall weirdness of the Ultra Beasts. Keep in mind that after Nehai Jogel, the first Ultra Beast you ever see is a Buzzwole or Pheromosa. Otherworldly, odd beasts made all the more strange when you see that chartreuse bug-type icon on their summary screen. Especially given that we spend most of the time in a Pokemon playthrough thinking that bug types are weak. As a player, it's a bit of whiplash to get to the end of the game and suddenly be facing Team Annihilation by the buffest bug of all time. Oh, and quickly going back to Nihilego, it actually proved my point, because as of Sun and Moon's release, there was only one other type that hadn't been given a legendary yet. and that was Poison. Ultra Beasts intentionally leveraged the disparity between legendary status and Pokemon's weakest types to create an uncanny valley, and that's why Pheromosa and Buzzwole are allowed to be bug types. The exception proves the rule. There are now a couple Poison-type legendaries, but the first of those, Eternatus, was introduced later in Sword and Shield. And initially when I wrote this, I forgot that the Loyal Trio, the Loyal Three, were legendaries because they're just, I don't like them, okay? I don't like these guys. It should be no surprise then that Pheromosa and Buzzwole seem to take inspiration from the rarest archetype of bug types, the powerful single stager. Just like Heracross and Pinsir, Pheromosa and Buzzwole have a rivalry/counterpart thing going on, and just like those two, they stand out because they buck the conventional trends, just with a semi-legendary twist. Oh yeah, one other rule they break, they're actually strong. Like, these are good Pokemon. The next bug type, almost legendary, follows that same model. And once again, it weaponizes its bug typing for narrative purpose. This time, it's not a Pokemon from another dimension, it's a Pokemon from another time. Slitherwing. Volcarona's prehistoric ancestor conjures imagery of a time long past, when forgotten beasts ruled the realm. And one of those beasts could even be a bug type. Look, you get it, right? Once again, the bug type is being utilized for the purposes of contrast. There's a pretty clear story here. Maybe in the past, bolstered by primal energy, bugs were allowed to be strong. These days, that's not the case. And if you follow the thread into the future, where Volcarona becomes Iron Moth, and the bug type has all but disappeared. Seems like Poison's doing okay, though. Slitherwing may be a bit of a joke competitively, but it's not for lack of trying, and not for lack of stats. Again, this bug type is afforded the chance to be strong thanks to its special distinction, but not as strong as the last almost legendary bug.
Genesect.
Our last quotation mark legendary is the closest thing that we have to an actual bug type legendary. The first special Pokemon to bear the bug type, only robbed of the status thanks to an asterisk. You know him, you love him, it's Dennis. What's that?
Dennis.
Sorry, I can't hear you over the
Dennis. Shut the fuck.
Wait, you said this guy's name is Genesect? But then why would they be saying Dennis? Okay, fine, I'll turn it down. Sorry, okay, sorry. Dennis, or Genesect if you're being formal, earned that name in the pre-release period for Pokemon Black and White. Back before we knew what any of the Pokemon's
those games fucking rule, dude.
Official names really were, or how they showed up when this magical video appeared on the internet. Blitzel might be the one nicknamed Dennis, but when the internet heard the chanting ringing through the cave when Genesect showed up, that was it. Dennis was born. These days, Dennis more often refers to Getsis, which makes sense since it turns out that's what they're actually chanting in the background of his theme song. But in those olden days, we didn't know that. We just knew about Dennis, the first mythical to ever be a bug type. See, Genesect is the last Pokemon in the Unobin Pokedex, a Pokedex that is built around remixing the familiar Pokemon formula. Genesect takes an old story and updates it. The evil team's man-made experiment gone rampant. Total power augmented through science. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that Genesect is actually Mew 3. That's important because Mew 2 is the
Mew 3? Mew 3 confirmed? Holy shit, let's go!
Original legendary Pokemon. And so I think it was very, very intentional to make its spiritual successor a bug type. Unova's all about giving a twist to the originals. What better twist than debuting the first ever bug type legendary? Except, of course, Dennis is a mythical, which is a real shame, honestly. What could have been the first bug legendary gets relegated away thanks to a minor distinction, and more importantly, hidden from most of the population. Thanks to its mythical event distribution, I think most of the player base has never actually experienced Genesect, or its admittedly pretty cool lore, or even its 5 alternate forms. That's right, I said 5. One for each of the drives, and one for Genesect's super secret form, Flight Mode Genesect, baby! See, this is what you're missing out on because Genesect's a mythical. Genesect is probably the platonic example of one type of bug legendary, the single stage Scyther Heracross Pinsir mode. In fact, it's even pretty strong, thanks in large part to its typing. You may remember that I didn't rank most of the bug type combinations as very good, but the one that I did was bug and steel. In fact, I put it as the number 8 best type combination in the game, thanks to the type's remarkable synergy. You take 2 of the worst offensive types in the game and you put them together, and you get a defensive behemoth with only 1 weakness. Sure, it is a 4 times weakness to fire, but it is worth it for all the resistances you get in exchange. Genesect may never have been legal in official competitive Pokemon, but its great typing, strong attacking stats, and great ability actually made it a respectable threat in the singles metagame back in Generation 5. It's fallen off a bit since then, but we can still dream of a world where this was the bug legendary, standard bearer for the type. but I still have 1 point of contention, okay? So far, we've been talking about Pokemon that break one of the bug type rules, being weak, and follow the legendary rule of not evolving, even if they're not actually legendary Pokemon. But I actually think that an ideal bug type legendary would evolve. Evolving doesn't make bug types weak. Some of the best bug types ever, like Scizor and Araquanid, are evolutions. So to me, the ideal bug type legendary, if Game Freak ever made it, would both be strong and evolve, carrying on the true growth spirit of the type. And you know what? I think that they already made it. In my mind, the ideal bug type legendary has been around for a while, just as long as our friend Dennis. It requires
Volcarona. It's Volcarona.
care and evolution to reach its full potential, which, when enabled, makes it the single best bug type Pokemon in history.
It's Volcarona. It's just Volcarona. The fact that Volcarona isn't a legendary is kind of weird. Like, it's kind of like a, not even a pseudo legendary. It's like a adopted legendary kind of thing. Like, everyone considers it basically a legendary, even if it's technically not.
At least competitively. I'm talking, of course, about Volcarona.
Yeah.
Now, quick question. Can someone tell me why this thing is not a legendary Pokemon?
I don't know.
It's rare, it's unique. It even comes in a static encounter. It's got the base stats of a legendary. At 550, it is tied with Ogerpon.
Yeah.
And yeah, Ogerpon is the lowest stats out of any legendary that's fully evolved, but wouldn't that kind of be perfect for a bug-type legendary? I don't think it's a surprise that Volcarona inspired 2 different Paradox Pokemon. It's a standout design that, to me at least, earns legendary status while staying true to the tenet of the bug type. If Game Freak ever does decide to make a bug-type legendary, I honestly think they have the perfect model right here. And I really hope that they do someday, but I also hope that they take their time to do it right. If there's anything that these almost buggy legendaries have shown, it's the power of having a weak type. Every type has its associations. Electric types are fast, steel types are bulky, psychic types are special attackers, fighting types are physical, and bugs, well, bugs are weak. But every type has its exceptions, and those exceptions, in many ways, make the rule matter. So, when Game Freak finally does make a bug-type legendary, and I mean a real one here, no mythical, no ultra beast, no paradox, no asterisks, you can count on it being memorable. Not just because it'll be the first, but because sometimes you need weakness to truly appreciate strength. Thanks for watching this next installment in Bug Month. If you haven't already, you should check out the most recent Bug Month video, which is about how the bug typing became a secret weapon for the top competitive players.
Well, that was great.